Hi everyone and welcome to Wing It Wednesdays, the cook and chat show where I talk about life as a food blogger while cooking something up and having the occasional existential crisis. And today I'm going to talk about how to properly and legally disclose any kind of dealings you've had with a brand on Instagram, or really any other social media platform you're on, while whipping up some matcha lava cakes using my very own recipe. Just quickly running through the ingredients, we've got 1 egg, 20 grams of caster sugar, 40 grams of unsalted butter, 1 tablespoonful of matcha, a pinch of salt, I use pink Himalayan, 25 grams of plain flour, and 60 grams of white chocolate. And you'll also need a bit more butter, softened of course, to slather on the inside of these moulds. You're going to want to be generous so that they don't stick. And I also like to use a bit extra baking paper at the bottom for extra non-stick insurance. Okay, on to the topic of the week. Now I'm going to be talking about the UK rules as set out by the Advertising Standards Authority and the Competition and Markets Authority, that's the ASA and CMA for short. But the general guidelines are probably going to be quite similar, if not almost identical for different countries' advertising authority counterparts. For example, the American Federal Trade Commission, FTC. That's a lot of acronyms. In any case, I encourage you to take a gander at your home country's particular rules and regulations. The UK's ASA and CMA are two separate organisations, with the former being non-statutory and with a focus on regulating advertising, as the name suggests, and the CMA being government-run and with a focus on making sure businesses compete with one another fairly. At least that's a very brief description of the two groups. But the ASA and CMA have fairly recently joined forces to release an official guide for influencers to tell them the correct and legal way to disclose brand partnerships, whether it's a free PR sample or a paid sponsorship. I've added a link to the full guide in the description box below, as well as a link to the CMA's own separate guide, which is largely the same, but I'll be talking through some of the main pointers from the official guidelines here today. Now, I feel we've gotten to a point where most influencers are aware that they have to declare brand associations. We still have too many that don't at all, like the British TikTok influencer, who recently got a slap on the wrist from the ASA for not properly disclosing a partnership with GHD in one of her posts. But now that more are aware that disclosure is needed, many are still not doing enough to properly disclose their dealings with brands, and you might unwittingly not be either. Let's take a look at what the official line is. Page 3 of the official ASA guidelines document states, when a brand gives an influencer a payment, any posts then promoting or endorsing the brand or its products/services become subject to consumer protection law. Payment means any form of monetary payment, commission, a free loan of a product/service, a free product/service, whether requested or received out of the blue, or any other incentive. So yes, this includes PR samples sent out on a no obligation to post basis and affiliate links, the latter of which is when you earn commission when someone buys something using a promotional code or link the brand has given you to share. So now we know what counts as payment. What's the official way to declare said payment? Well, the only acceptable way to declare it is to label it as an advert up front in your content, whether it's at the beginning of an Instagram post caption, in the Instagram stories, at the beginning of a YouTube video or on TikTok, etc. Not hidden right at the end or buried within a caption or the hashtags, which is what many influencers unfortunately do. According to page 7 of their document, the ASA approves of the terms ad, advert, advertising, advertisement, and advertisement feature. It advises against vague terms that not everyone will understand the implications of, such as affiliate and gift. The CMA's guide also adds that hashtags like spawn and collab also are not enough. Understandably, many feel like this is a bit of a hard line to take, as the term ad suggests being paid with actual money. But these are the official rules. However, there are ways to specify exactly what the nature of the payment is, For example, writing ad followed by PR sample, ad followed by press trip, or ad followed by affiliate links. And when you've been paid with money for an Instagram post, you can use the hashtag ad and tag it as a paid promotion, which then clearly appears at the top of the post too. It's all good as long as the first thing you lead with is ad or advert. The phrase lead with being the operative phrase, the ASA also states that your declaration needs to be obvious. To use Instagram's paid promotions tag, you have to get the brand to approve you on their Instagram account for this too, which they should do. After all, it's their responsibility too to declare brand and influencer partnerships. Using Instagram's paid promotions tag is also a good thing because it protects you from brands going on to use your content outside of the promotion agreement, unless you agree to it of course, in which case there's a separate checkbox for that lets them have more rights to your post. Lots of influencers use the term gift or gifted when given free products, and this unfortunately isn't enough, because it's not really a gift. Yes, you can be grateful to a brand for sending you samples. I've seen some influencers say we should stop using phrases like kindly gifted and thanks for having us, which I think is a little extreme because declaring brand involvement doesn't mean we should throw manners out of the window entirely. But I do agree with the sentiment that's behind it, which is that just saying something is gifted is not transparent enough, because a brand usually isn't giving you something for free out of the kindness of their hearts. They're giving it to you because they're hoping you'll market it for them by including them in your post or video, and as soon as you do, this becomes a transaction between you and the brand, ergo, an advert. Of course, as with everything in life, there are some grey areas. For example, I always use ad PR visit or ad PR sample if my post is featuring restaurants I've been invited to or a product that I've been sent free of charge for PR purposes, regardless of the understanding is I'll definitely post about an exchange or if it's a no obligation invite or sample. Because in the eyes of the ASA, it's an advert either way. But sometimes I'll visit a place I've been a regular at for years and with whom I have a friendly relationship with, and on an occasion during my visit, while fully intending to pay, I'll be given a complimentary dish as a thank you for my loyalty and support. The sentiment behind it genuinely is leaning more towards gift than promotion, but I still have a responsibility to declare something when I post about it. In this case, I label it as a complimentary dish to show that the brand hasn't invited me especially for PR purposes, but I haven't ended up paying for the dish in the end. It's an exception to the rule though, and there really isn't any guidance on loyalty gifts like this. Now, since the ASA and CMA count PR samples as payments that influencers need to disclose, I feel like influencers need to start looking at these samples as payment too, and, I think, start to question whether they are adequate payment for their marketing services, especially when the brand is demanding a certain amount of content in return and telling you to put key messages in or controlling what content you put out. In fact, the ASA guide has a whole section about brand control on page 11. I talk about paying influencers for their work in another video too, which I'll link above and below in the description. As I mentioned in that video, I'm not saying that influencers should stop accepting free products as payment. I'm only suggesting that influencers should probably be more selective with who they accept PR samples from, and be careful about devaluing their services. TLDR, or TLDL for listening in this case, if you receive something from a brand and post about it, whether as monetary payment, commission or a free sample, it's an ad and should be presented as so clearly and upfront, instead of with euphemisms and or hidden somewhere else in the post or video. It's no longer acceptable for an influencer to say that they didn't know they had to disclose this kind of information in this kind of way. Influencer marketing isn't all that new anymore. But some influencers do know, yet knowingly post without disclosure anyway. Why? Maybe because they feel embarrassed by having been given something by a brand and are worried that they're losing their authentic image. But if a brand wants to work with you, I think you should be proud of that. There's no need to hide the fact that your hard work has made a brand go, I trust that person to make us look amazing. And of course, there are also fake influencers who lie and say a post is an ad when it's not actually an ad. But that's a whole different kettle of fish, for which you'll have to wait until next week's video when I talk about the types of fake influencers you'll come across on your social media travels. Thanks for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed today's video and found something in it useful, and I hope you'll join me next Wednesday for my next cook and chat session. You can find the ingredients list and instructions for my matcha lava cakes on my blog linked below in the description box, as well as a link to my Instagram page Tash Cakes Tastes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more recipes and hear more about blogging from a blogger's point of view. Comment down below if you'd like me to talk about anything in particular, and I'll see you guys later. Stay safe, be nice, and have a good week.